We look forward to this spot. Gary Sheffield, there you see him. What a slugger he was. Lots of teams. Won a championship with the Marlins, of course, back in '97. Players Alliance doing a great deal down in Tampa as far as baseball gear is concerned. Underprivileged kids. He's been down there for a couple of days in his old neck of the woods, and he says hello. Gary, nice to chat. How are you today, pal? Okay?
Yeah, everything's good, man. I'm glad you guys got me on.
Good to have you with us here. Let's do the Players Alliance stuff first. Lots of gear for kids who can use it. Get people involved in sports, underprivileged kids involved in baseball. It's the best thing you guys could do. You've done it the last 2 days in Tampa. Give me a little rundown. Go ahead.
Well, this is something that has been a long time coming. I'm glad it's taking place in Major League Baseball. Player Association step forward and given the supplies that these kids so desperately need. To learn how to play baseball at a young age, it starts with wiffle ball, a plastic bat and a plastic ball. And when you talk about, the aluminum bats and the mitt, catcher mitts, first base glove, infield gloves, these things get very expensive. And when you're talking about, then you have to join a travel ball team and the cost that comes with that. When you add all that up, you got so many families and parents that can't really afford to do it. I know if I was coming up in these times under the conditions I grew up in, I wouldn't have been able to play baseball. So, I'm just so proud of the guys for stepping up and not only just putting their money where their mouth is, they're putting their time and their efforts in this for these kids.
Excellent point, and you're right. We lose a lot of young, great talent because of the finances, and that needs to stop. And you were a young player who had to start your career in Milwaukee, 18, 19-year-old kid, Gary. So that was a learning experience right out of the gate. Then traded, of course, and bounced around until you found a home down in Miami. Give me some thoughts on the early part of your career. Go ahead.
Well, I'm grateful to be drafted by the Milwaukee Brewers because it taught me a lot. It taught me the business part about the game. It taught me about culture shock. I didn't understand culture shock, and I never played in cold weather. I never been alone. I'm an only child. I never been on my own. I was always close to my mom and dad. And then when I was able to go play baseball and be on my own, I had to become a man at 19 years old. And it was very difficult for me because any 19-year-old playing against 30-year-old, 35-year-olds are going to have a rough time of adjustment unless they surround you with the right people to give you the tools and help you along the way. And I'm just thankful that Dave Parker and Don Baylor came into my life and kind of helped me understood how the game worked. How do you prepare for 162 games, including spring training, and how to deal with grown men. And so once I got that experience and my career had moved on from there, I was better equipped in other places.
Wow, that's a good answer. Excellent job. You got a lot of raw deals, and it turned out to be not true that you were throwing a ball away at third base at the Brewers to get traded from Milwaukee. That followed you a long time, Gary, but that was not accurate, correct?
That was not accurate. And, that's what taught me about, the media, how people can just say one thing and that don't make it true, but people run with it. And there's no way for you to defend it, no matter what. Back when I came in the league as a 18-year-old shortstop. And spring training, I led in RBIs, home runs, and batting average at 18 years old with Paul Molitor and Robin Yount on the team. And I was put at shortstop to start the season. And when I did that, basically, they wanted me to be the face of the team. And when I became the face of the team, a lot comes with that. But back then, they never had shortstop coaches and infield coaches to help you before the game, work on your craft, the things that you're not as strong in. They get out there early and work with you. I didn't have that. I had to learn on my own. I had to learn on the fly, as well as coming up there hitting major league pitching. So it was a tough adjustment for me at the beginning because I felt like I didn't have the help that I needed. And so, but at the end of the day, thank God I was a strong individual and I knew how to work through things, and whatever the negative is, I take the negative just like I take the positive. And it was all a learning experience.
And you got to Miami eventually, and you won a championship. Let's not forget Game 7 against the Indians. You were big. You're hitting in the snow in Cleveland during the World Series. A kid from Florida. That ain't
Yeah.
great either, but you won your title. We'll get to the Yankees in a sec. But you won your title with the Marlins there in improbable fashion with that comeback against the Indians in the ninth inning of Game 7. Give me some thoughts. Go ahead.
Well, once again, this is part of the growth that I had to get to be put in these situations. They built the team around me when I first got to Florida. They said, "This is your team. We're going to put the talent around you. You can even pick the talent if you want to." And I wanted to have certain players around me because I thought that would bring out the best in me. And this is one thing that I never talked about my whole career that I wanted to have a platform to talk about one day is the marriage that you have to an organization. Yes, I played on 8 different teams, but I always have something in the tank of greatness that I can go and reach and tap into as long as I'm married to a situation. And as you saw, the one organization I was married to, I won a championship with.
100% with the Marlins and Leland and everything else. You were also part of that Yankee team, Gary. I was at the game on that Saturday night when you bashed the wall about 9 million times, you and the Yankee lineup. In 04, 19-8, whatever the score was, who would have known that you would have lost 4 straight games? That probably still stings, correct?
It does, because we knew going into that series they had the better pitching staff. Hands down, Kurt Schilling, Pedro Martinez. When you talk about that pitching staff, we had them right where we wanted. We beat their best, and we knew that if we didn't finish them off with their 4th and 5th starters, then they can turn their pitching staff back over to get to the top of that rotation. And we let it get away. I mean, it's 100 reasons why. We can think of a lot of things, but at the end of the day, from an offensive player looking at that series, we scored the necessary runs to win a 7 games series. And we did that, but unfortunately, we came up short. And that was one that always stayed with me and bothered me.
Yeah, 100%. Bothered all Yankee fans. Listen, you got Hall of Fame numbers. We all know that. You're a lifetime 292 hitter. You got 510 home runs. You drove in 1,600 runs. And I'm a Giant fan, and you killed me in 97.
I know you're going to. Yeah, I always knew you was a Giants fan, and I look at when I had got to the Mets, when they put me on waivers and the Giants picked me up. I wanted so much to bring a championship to the Giants and be with Barry Bonds to do that. And I knew that would have made you proud because you was always one of my favorite guys, man.
No, I appreciate that. That's nice of you to say that. But in 97, I thought we were going to beat you, and you hit a huge home run. You killed the Giants all the time because you were so fearful. We did strike you out, though. Nen did. In 0-2 in the ninth inning for Atlanta. Am I right or wrong about that? In a fastball, high inside fastball with guys on base in the bottom of the ninth. Is that correct?
Yes, I confess to that. I tried to I tried to do too much, and once again, when you're in a short series, you have to play take what they give you. And everybody, they used to pitch around me, and in that series, I went out the strike zone a lot, and it cost me dearly.
Yeah, and that one about. All right, now, again, you have Hall of Fame numbers, Gary. I think you get swallowed up. Everybody in that era hit lots of great things. I know that you're a Hall of Fame hitter, and you haven't gotten that support yet. Everybody's going to bring up the Bonds relationship with the Cream.
Yes.
I know that bothers you, but it has to be asked. Do you think that's affected your Hall of Fame vote here so far? You're still on the ballot. Has that affected it so far as your post-baseball season is concerned?
I think with me, I don't think the writers really look at me as they looked at those other players, because when you look at my track record and you look at the time I went to train with Barry Bonds, nothing matches up with what they're saying. I went to train with Barry Bonds only because I was represented by Scott Boras, and I was coming off a 43 home run season. So I had no reason to go train with Barry Bonds to worry about trying to hit 60 or 70 home runs, because that never was my thought. I always knew if I stepped on any baseball field, I can hit 60 home runs if I wanted to. But I never played the game that way. I always played to the scoreboard. I hit to the scoreboard. I always thought a number 3 hitter is supposed to make everybody better. If I had to take walks, I take the walks. if I had to hit a double,
Right.
if I had to steal a base. I always played the game, team baseball, team oriented baseball. And I made sure I didn't strike out because I was doing my team no good by striking out. So I made my at bats count and I tried to make my teammates better. But I understand the concern that the writers have and everybody around baseball have. And you get a lot of guys get up here and say, I didn't do this, I didn't do that. But the bottom line was, all you got to do is just think about it. If you sit here and say, I went to work out with Barry Bonds for 2 months, how that's going to define 22 years. And so that's how I look at it. It has nothing to do with all the things that they claiming these players is doing, because I've never been accused of. I've always been the one to speak up about the steroid era and the players that I thought was doing steroids, and I brought it to people's attention. And for some reason, they want to get me into that mix to be able to have some say into my final decision making when it comes to the Hall of Fame. So I know it was never going to be easy for me in anything I did. People have been coming at me for 22 years, and I made it 22 years of a lot of things going on in my life. So I never expected to just walk into the Hall of Fame.
Well, you've been a great slugger and a great player. Gary, great job with this Players Alliance. We'll keep in touch. Thanks for a few minutes here. Always a pleasure. Good to have you.
Thanks for having me, buddy.